Welcome back, my captive love. Hee hee. If you think my last session had juicy gossip stories, that is nothing compared to the werewolves, vampires, and witches you will meet in this super juicy gossip episode I will share with you now. Anyway, my love, I was 17 years old when my second oldest sister married a Christian man that constantly annoyed me. Barging in my room without knocking, teasing me by throwing our dog's bowl of water on my feet for no reason, scolding me for always wearing black clothing. Strangely, though, I never considered myself to be a goth. I wore black for religious purposes to honor the living and dead that followed me around as a witch, not as a goth. But shout out to my goth family, I love you. Well, on one faithful night while I was in my room, my brother-in-law suddenly barged in my room looking for his car keys and asking what was I doing. Without missing a beat, I showed him my homemade Ouija board, smiled, and said in true Wednesday fashion form, "Want to talk to my little dead friend?" Well, needless to say, he never bothered me again, but I did get lectures from so many of his Christian relatives, ha. I suppose it was a fair trade-off for a little peace in my life. My life is so strange, my love. On Sunday mornings before my little Ouija dead friend incident with my brother-in-law, haha, I used to love going to their church. I was even in the choir and loved singing. I went to church, not because I was forced to or rebelling to mock God. I genuinely loved him and was glad to be there, and then at midnight I would hold my witchcraft rituals to celebrate the earth since I am a child of the night. You know, love, I never seen this as a conflict in my life, but it sure seemed to cause so much pain and misery to other people when they found out what I was. All kidding aside, I am truly sorry it had to turn out that way. Before I continue on my supernatural stories that are totally bizarre, I want to tell you another rolling my eyes normal story that does not involve the supernatural, because I did promise you I would talk about real vampires and werewolves, my love, haha. Before I do, I just want to voice my frustration of trying to get Hollywood to film a movie about my life. It has religion, drama, totally bizarre supernatural things, as well as a secret underground subculture I was a part of in addition to my normal squeaky clean life I lived in society. Leading back to a very strong message about the preciousness of life and family in trying to stay sane in an insane world. I may not get my movie, but at least I have this book to share with you even though I had to virtually kidnap you, lol. Anyway, moving right along, this story involved a discussion between a good atheist friend of mine that witches, vampires, and werewolves were not real. Sheesh, next thing he'll say is that Santa Claus doesn't exist either. Run, Easter Bunny, run. Darn, a deranged atheist wiped you out of existence too. Just to let you know, we do like to tease each other, hee hee. When we first met, and he introduced himself as an atheist, I immediately apologized to him because I told him I was a witch, and if he hates Christians that have one God, he will hate me twice as much, since some Wicca witches have a duality of goddess and God known as the Lord and Lady. We've been friends ever since. Moving right along, we were having this debate if God, witches, vampires, and werewolves existed or not, and it was a heated debate until I promised to let him win if he were to come with me so I can introduce him to some real vampires. He agreed at first until he heard the conditions of being able to meet them. He had to leave his cell phone behind. We had to meet them in a dark, deserted alley at 3 in the morning. If they ask him about his blood type, he should run. Or get behind me so I can tell them he's my blood type, so back off that. And finally, under no circumstances will he say vampires do not exist, haha. I thought most atheists were pretty practical people, but he was a little slow. He still insisted that he had a right to tell people fairy tale creatures do not exist, so I had to remind him. Do you really want to tell people who think they're a vampire they don't exist in a dark, deserted alley where no one can hear you scream at 3 in the morning? I think he finally took my point, well taken. By the way, my vampire friend named Vladimir inspired me to write his character in my other book I wrote titled, Don't Talk to Evil Witches, especially her. Check it out if you can. On Booksy.com. By the way, Vladimir is more of a title that you attach to a name. Since he didn't want to give me his name other than Vladimir, I forever cursed him with that name I call him to make him look even more mysterious to people that meet him. In regards to my werewolf friends, they were really cool people. I had the pleasure of spending a day with them at the zoo with their family. And no, the zookeepers did not think any wild animals escaped their cages when my wolf friends passed by them, hee hee. They looked like, acted like, dressed like very normal conservative people, and I had a blast spending time with their children, and even with the ones they kidnapped. You know I'm joking, right? Haha. To be honest, I really couldn't tell any difference between this wonderful, sweet pagan family from a Christian one. Their children were just wonderful kids that wanted to have fun and be loved like any other child. It was a great, uneventful day, that is, until we went to a restaurant and one of the mothers ordered raw meat for her hamburger, which the owner had to politely refuse because of health safety regulations. So they compromised to have the meat rare done, but make sure it's bloody. The mother ordering the raw meat was the alpha female of her pack that belonged to a wolf clan coven. She didn't make her children eat raw meat, but if my atheist friend were invited to dinner, she would make him eat raw meat just to mess with him, haha. Werewolves don't exist? Then why did an imaginary wolf make you eat raw meat, Mr. Atheist Smarty Pants? Of course he could have refused, but if he did, he would have two choices: to run or fight her, and believe me, I never saw her lose a fight. As for me, I'm not a fighter, I'm a hugger, and just want to play with evil people, kind of like Diana on Grimm. She's so cute when she plays with the mean werewolf that kidnapped her. I want to be just like her when I grow up someday. In conclusion, as a witch, I had the pleasure to meet people from all spectrums of life. From culture to counterculture underground groups that would scare most people since they are so different from the norm. As in the case of Vladimir, real name Martin, that I actually met in a dark alley on my way to a Witches You'll Coven gathering at a pagan-friendly restaurant at around 10 p.m. I was intrigued at his commitment and dedication in being a vampire. He was a complete stranger and swooped up on me unexpectedly, and we had the strangest conversation ever. He was so fascinating that I used his character in my fictitious book I mentioned earlier. He was very intimidating, but his demeanor changed when he found out I was a high priestess, which that is no fear, and we had a very pleasant conversation. He revealed that you can tell the real vampires from the fake ones by how pale they truly are without makeup, and that type O negative blood was as sweet as wine to the taste. He also wanted to know what blood type I was, and I actually did say, I'm my blood type, so back off, bat. So he graciously bowed down to me and departed in typical vampire fashion, by abruptly leaving while covering his face with his cape and flew off into the bushes. Or maybe just jumped and stumbled a little, haha. About an hour later, I met with him again, of all places, at the same restaurant we had our Yule party, and found out he was actually a pretty normal and interesting person to talk to. I did caution him about his acting, if it was acting, to not carry the vampire without a rebel cause persona too seriously for random human prey in a dark alley. Since we live in a gun-loving concealment state, but my concern didn't seem to faze him, lol. What can I do with my vampy friend, other than pray, and maybe put a protection spell or two on him as he happily roams the dark alleys I met him from? When you live in a normal society all your life and not exposed to the subculture, it can seem very strange to you, but from my experiences with them, I found them to be really good people, and in all honesty, if a Christian or vampire family wanted me to spend a weekend with them at their home, I would choose the vampire family 100% of the time, because Christians are too unpredictable and scary to me, haha. I know this is strange, but I have to ask you this question, my love. Are the people in my life evil or satanic? Not in my opinion, but they certainly are different and eccentric, and I'm so glad they are in my life because their existence is what makes life so interesting, exhilarating, and wonderful to explore. Just when you think you can't be surprised by something strange or weird and think you've seen it all, people who think they are vampires or werewolves show up to give you a pleasant surprise how wonderful it is to be alive and in their company. Sorry for making fun of my family that think they are vampires, Werewolves, pagans, Christians, or atheist, but it's okay because I think I'm a witch, my dear, haha. And I wouldn't have it any other way.